second or third year. And one of the classes was talking about how you build a resume and all this other stuff. So I built a resume, and I remember going to a meeting and alumni talking about career fair, and I think somebody had asked, hey, when's a good time to apply for an internship? And like if you've taken any kind of classes in your major, you should probably start looking for an internship. So I drafted my resume, went to the career fair, passed out my resume to God only knows, anybody who would take it, I gave it to them. And maybe about 2 or 3 months after that, I got a phone call from a Xerox recruiter saying, hey, we got an internship opportunity, love to talk to you. And it led to an actual internship, a summer internship, and then an actual part-time internship. So I was going to school as well as working, which is kind of cool gig, you can say. And then once I had graduated in 2001, they offered me a full-time role, and then I was there for about 6 years. The Xerox location I was working at was in El Segundo, and I was making a commute from here in Pomona to El Segundo. You know where El Segundo is? It's out by LAX. It's a drive. It took about 5 years off my life, I think. And so 6 years there, I had a friend who was working at Avery Dennison, and he decided to leave his role and go pursue another opportunity. And he gave me a call. He said, hey, Arian, I'm quitting my job. I'm going to do something else, but I think you'd be perfect for this job. It was actually a closer job in Brea than out in El Segundo. So I interviewed and
I want to lift it. Can you move it because it's clamping the
accepted
volume?
an offer to work as a technical analyst at Avery Dennison. And then Avery Dennison was acquired by a company called CSS, and kind of over time I've taken on more responsibilities until my current position where I'm director of software development for Avery. So let's talk about Avery. So Avery's an office supply company. You'll typically find our products in Staples, Office Max, Office Depot. Binders, cards, labels, shoe protective items, writing instruments, name badge, tags, fasteners. I'll pass around some. We also do printed labels. We're probably most known for our labels, so we can pass these around. Let's say you're making wine at home, and you want a professional-looking label. You can buy sheet labels and print them on your desktop. Put them on your wine bottle, and go sell it to your friends or give it to your friends. Binders, cards. So we do business cards. Clean edge. We have a pretty cool material science team. Does some cool things with different adhesives and materials to do cool things. This one is kind of cool. It's instead of a perforated business card, it actually uses a plastic coating, so it actually snaps, and so it's got a nice clean edge. We also launched a service maybe about 3 years ago where we can print labels for consumers.
That's as far as we go.
So, how many have a printer at home? Okay, so let's do a printer at home. Have the inkjet? Laser? Okay, yeah. So you know the feeling when you run out of ink, you gotta go to Staples and buy some more ink. Some consumers, rather than deal with the ink and all that stuff, we have digital presses that can really do nice quality label. And if you're say you're doing jams, anybody doing canning? Yeah, I didn't think so. Any beekeepers? No beekeepers. Okay, well, if you were a beekeeper or you did jam and canning, you're going to the farmer's market and you wanted to have a nice looking label, we can print it on the same technology that your big manufacturers use. So you get this nice cool label for your product. We have some brands that we've acquired over time. So we've got PC Name Tag, which does event badging for conferences, concerts, stuff like that. We have Mabel's Labels, which does kids labels. If you have kids, they always want to lose things, and so they'll actually print nice color labels that you're going to fix on the back of your tag. Anybody label their clothes here? In case you lose them? No? Okay, good. That's a joke. In Print Plus, they do hospitality badging. You typically find like at a Marriott, a nice badge that says, So I just want to our whole business. You're thinking to yourself, okay, this is great. You guys do office supplies, I get that. You labels, that's great. Okay, Arian, please tell me, how does this have to do with software? And so how this has to do with software is that we have our own software platforms that we have built over time to allow consumers to design labels and cards online. And so our design canvas, we call it Design and Print Online. And it's a full HTML5 design canvas where you can add text, you can add images, you can do merge. So if you have a mailing list of people that you want to do badging for, you can upload a spreadsheet. It'll merge that data into your design. And so for a consumer who maybe doesn't, have a graphic designer or Photoshop or anything like that, they want to design some labels, and we try to make it easier for our consumers to, design their labels, design their cards, and make it easy for them to either print them on their own or have us print for them. And so, we do fancy stuff like this. And then just recently, about a year ago, we built a new version of our design canvas that actually works on the mobile web. And so you can pull up your phone and actually design a label or card on your mobile phone, which is kind of a cool thing. And Nick Cage fans? Anybody? No? Anybody know who Nick Cage is? Okay. Somebody tell me the movie this is from.
Con Air?
Boom. Nice. Very good.
It's a classic.
I became director of software about 2 years ago. And when I started as director of software, I tried to come up with some a direction for the team to work in, right? We've got a team of about 17 engineers, 3 different teams. We're all trying to make our consumer experience the best experience that we possibly can make. And so this is kind of how we framed up kind of how we want to define our consumer experience for our consumers. So frictionless and ubiquitous. So frictionless basically means eliminating steps, anticipating needs, and loading like lightning, right? How many here have a mobile phone? Okay, good. Who doesn't have a mobile phone? This I should say. Okay, nobody has a mobile phone. Okay, that's fair. Who has a tablet? Okay, so last. How many of you have a desktop or a laptop? Everybody should raise their hand. Okay. So when we start talking about the next topic, actually I missed the slide, but this isn't a frictionless process, right? Anytime we throw up something that says please wait while our design tool loads, this may take a few moments depending on your connection speed. When we redesigned our whole design canvas, right, our goal was to remove this, right? Because we want the process to be frictionless. We want consumers to get as quickly as possible into our the experience that we built and get them through it. Because consumers are busy, right? If you think of a small business owner, he's worried about his brand. He's worried about the next batch of product he's trying. Is the quality good? He's not worried about, well, how am I going to make my labels, right? You want to make it easy for them. And so the next topic is really ubiquitous. The spot that it used to be, right? We just had to worry about like a desktop, right? Which was easy, right? We got to know what it'll take to run on a desktop. We got a browser, an environment that's pretty consistent, depending on what browser you use. But over the past probably 7 to 8 years, right, we've seen this, the mobile, the tablet, and consumers are using mobile phones probably more than their desktop, if not the same amount. And so that presents a challenge for us to figure out how we build an experience for our consumers on these different platforms. So ubiquitous. And we have some technologies that we've been working on over the past several years. First was converting. We had a Flash-based design tool. Anybody know what Flash does or what Flash is? Yeah. Anybody building in it still? Okay, so good. Okay, not too bad. Okay. And then so we redesigned a lot of our experience, removed all of our Flash out of our site, and built everything from HTML5. Right. So there's no plugins that are required. It just runs. And the next technology initiative that we've been working on is providing an entire experience on a mobile phone. So that consumers who maybe they don't have access to their desktop, maybe they're out on the run, they've got there's this kind of concept of micro moments where I've got I'm just sitting in line waiting for something, I pull up my phone, I need to design some birthday cards, right? I can do that on my phone and get it done. So those two we've kind of we've delivered experiences for that, but as we look into the future, we're trying to figure out how we can leverage data that we have and machine learning to make some cool experiences for our consumers. So if I know a consumer who's ordering a 2-inch round label also orders a 2-inch square label, there's algorithms and some machine learning technology we can kind of mess around with to make it easy for our consumers to order that 2-inch square label along with that 2-inch round label. And so a little bit about the development teams that we have. We have 3 development teams, one that focuses on web experience, our catalog. We have another team that focuses on our e-commerce platform, our shopping cart, as well as our print production system. So if you think you're online, you're designing a cool label like this one, right? I don't want to print this, I want to have Avery print it. This will go to a shopping cart. You type in credit card. We then have to then format this in a way that a digital press can then print it. And And so there's technology that we have behind the scenes that will manage that whole flow behind the scenes. And then lastly, we have a team that focuses on our design tools. So this is the team that is responsible for these experiences and trying to make it easy for consumers to add text, add images, merge barcodes, and then making sure that there's consistency between when a consumer designs this and when it actually prints, that it's as big, so perfect as we can possibly get. Right. And here's some technology that we use, right? CS majors, probably know what was this all done on? Yeah.
You guys actually use Narrow at your backend?
In some places, not everywhere. So there are pieces of this in different, how's the best way to describe this? If you go to Avery.com, it's an aggregation of multiple systems, but to the consumer it looks like one system. So there are pieces of the site that actually, there's a backend that runs Node. There's some pieces that run Java. There's some pieces that run PHP. Front end, depending upon what part of the site you're on, could be backbone.js, Angular, React. Yeah.
Is that Angular or AngularJS?
Angular. Angular 4.6. And then Python. We have a little bit of Python here and there. And then our entire infrastructure runs Amazon Web Services. Anybody familiar with Amazon Web Services? Yeah. Cool technology. It used to be back when I graduated, right? If you were a startup, you had to go find VC money to go build $1 million data center. Now it's just focused on, you set up your free Amazon account and spin up some EC2 services, and then build your infrastructure from there. And it's all as a service, right? So open roles that we have. So we have an open role for a DevOps engineer. We do. We'll definitely have some internship opportunities coming this summer. We try to do about 4 software development interns every year. We've worked on projects. Last year we had one intern working on augmented reality, and we were kind of prototyping different ways that we could take labels and try to wrap it around a bottle or how to basically apply on a surface of some kind. So we, one of our interns worked on that, and then another intern worked on a Google Drive app that we had. So a lot of the projects that we work on, our interns work on, are kind of real world. We're either prototyping something that we're thinking about doing, or it could actually be a project that we are in the middle of working on. So, did you have a question? I saw a hand. And then software development engineers, we'll definitely be at the career fair next week. Definitely swing by and say hi. We typically don't have a large team of recruiters. I'll just say that. We have typically it's either myself or one of our software development managers. So when you're talking to people behind the table, they're actual managers and people you maybe actually report to, not just somebody collecting resumes. So it's cool. So well, before I jump into that, any questions about Avery, my career, before we jump into some career tips? All right. So some career tips. I have to say though, I'm starting to get older, and so sometimes some of these images may be a little bit old, and so please tell me if anybody know what this is from?
Office Space.
Office Space. Okay, some people know. Okay, Office Space movie. You can look it up on Netflix or something, Amazon Prime. So career tips right with the boss. So career tip number 1, try to get yourself land yourself an internship sometime before you graduate. As I mentioned, the question, I remember when I was on that side, still in school, the question always was, well, when am I ready for an internship? And the reality is if you've taken a programming class or any of your CS classes, you're probably ready for an internship. There are many different internship opportunities. Sometimes it's if you're entry level, it could be just a QA role, but really just getting into an environment where somebody's developing code and understanding kind of how that works is great experience for somebody who's in college. So, definitely think about, if you haven't already, put together a resume, think about going to career fair. If you go to, I think it's the Career Center's website, they'll typically have a list of companies that will be attending the career fair, and just print a bunch of resumes and just start talking to people and see what kind of opportunities are out there. Career tip number 2, get involved. Network with your peers. So I think one of the great things about Cal Poly is the great number of clubs that you can attend and get to know not only your peers, but also your alumni. So, you've got on the CS side, right, there's the game design. Let me know if these don't exist anymore. So there's the game design and the development club. There's FAST, SWIFT, of course, the Computer Science Society, CPBC codes, MESA, SWIFT. Each one of them has alumni that come and talk about different topics. And feel free to go between the different ones and to get a nice broad experience of different from different alumni and from different companies and stuff like that. And also, anybody know who this is?
All
right. I'm trying to stay in touch with you guys. So, funny fact, he's an alumni. Anybody know that? Yeah, he's a Cal Poly alumni. Marketing, I believe. But anyway, which is kind of funny. But yeah, so you get a chance to meet. I'm not saying you're going to get to meet Dr. Disrespect, but you get to meet other alumni, maybe just as cool. So you have alumni working at different companies that are coming to different clubs and giving their experience, how it is in the real world. And it's always great. I always found it valuable whenever I was either in class or a club, and alumni kind of came back and talked a little about what they were working on, kind of how they got to where they were. Because I think you can only see, at least when I was in school, I could only see far as graduation. Beyond that, it was like, okay, I'm going to graduate. I like to code. I hope I land a good job to have fun and build cool things. So definitely, get involved. Try to network with your peers. The other thing about networking with your peers is you'll never know, the people and the relationships that you build in college, especially that are in your major or in other majors. When you're out in your career, and opportunities are going to come up, and you never know where that call is going to come from. It could be a peer that you've been friends with or know. It may be an alumni that maybe you met once, and they have an open position, and they remember you and stuff like that. And so you never know when those opportunities will kind of come up. And so definitely get involved. And so tip number 3, I guess when I converted it didn't take the image. But anyways, learning never stops. And this is supposed to have a cool picture of I think Albert Einstein with some quote. And I don't remember what the quote was. But anyway, the learning never stops. One thing that if you haven't realized is that your college experience true is about learning different algorithms and programming languages and stuff like that. But really what it's about is understanding how you learn and how you learn new things. And especially in this career field, technology is constantly evolving, constantly changing. If it's not a new JavaScript framework, it's machine learning, it's cryptocurrency, it's blockchain, it's all these different things that kind of come at you in your career. And so a lot of what you're learning now is understanding how you learn things, and how you pick up things, and how you apply it. And so learning never stops. Number 4, have passion for what you do. So in your career, right, you're going to have high points and low points, and it's really the passion for what you're doing that'll get you through those low points. If you, how many like to write code? Yeah, see? So, in your job, right, if you love what you do, there's going to be points where you're working on something that you may not like, but as long as you're coding something, right, and you enjoy what you do, that makes it that much easier to do good for you. And then career tip number 5, try to attend a conference. There are many different conferences out there that on multiple different topics. You have, depending on what interests you, or you've got DEF CON if you're into cybersecurity. Google has Google I/O, Amazon has reInvent, Microsoft has Build, Apple has their WWDC, PHP, any topic, blockchain, they've got a conference for it. It's crazy, right? And what you're going to get out of that is a nice broad experience of different topics from industry experts on a wide range of topics that will definitely give you that ability to learn multiple things really quickly, and stuff that you may not have heard before. But part of the learning process is when you learn about something that may be new, is that you can learn more about it. Researching online. All right, any questions about the career tips? Straightforward stuff. So what is the purpose of the resume?
Advertise you.
Advertise you, yeah. It's about getting the interview, really. But it's talking about you, which is good. So you gotta think about when you're building your resume, you're thinking about, what are the things that I need to talk about in my resume to hopefully land an interview. That's really the objective. How long should the resume be?
1 page.
Yes, thank you. 1 page only, please. As a hiring manager, I love the long stories and stuff like that. But when I'm filtering through, 100 resumes, when I'm looking at like a 7-page resume, it's like, just give me the good stuff. So please try to keep it 1 page, get to the point. It'll make my job and a recruiter's job so much easier. And less is more. It's really talking about what did you do and kind of what was the result or impact. And so you may think, well, Arian, I don't have that much experience, but if you've taken classes and you've done projects in your classes, that's experience. That's relevant experience. Definitely put that on your resume. I'd be prepared to talk about it. What you learned from it. What were the challenges of it. And then, if you can, I know when you go to the career fair, you may not know what the different job descriptions, there may not be a job description, you just may be handing out your resume. But if you do have a job description in hand, try to highlight relevant experience based on the job description. Or if you know you want to do a certain thing, whether that's, you're a JavaScript ninja, you love JavaScript, you eat and breathe JavaScript, then highlight that relevant experience. If you're looking for a JavaScript type job, highlight that experience in your resume, because somebody who's looking for somebody who's a JavaScript ninja will want to see some JavaScript experience on your resume. And then spelling grammar. If it's on your resume, just be prepared to answer a question. So if you're talking about JavaScript on your resume, just be prepared to answer questions about it. And maybe just kind of high level, simple stuff. And maybe the interview may want to go deeper into it. But either way, just be prepared to answer questions about it. If you think about it, the resume, when you're going into an interview, the resume is really the questions that an interview is probably going to ask about, right? So if you think about what you put on your resume is going to reflect potentially the questions that you get asked. So. And then do not lie, just don't do it. And then career fair. So a couple of things that I've seen. I've done maybe 4 or 5 career fairs here at Cal Poly. And so here's some things that I've noticed. Is just plan ahead. Know which companies that you're going to want to talk to. And just have a plan, or maybe you don't have a plan, you're just going to print a stack of resumes and hand them out. Either way, just plan ahead. And prepare your resume. Try not to do it the night before. Try to do it in advance and have some people, your classmates, professor, just kind of review your resume and proofread it. And print extra resumes. I can't tell you how many times, it seems like every career fair that I have attended, we get to the end of the day and I always get maybe 1 or 2 students who come up to me and say, what kind of jobs do you have, right? We talk back and forth and say, hey, do you have a resume? And like, oh man, I ran out of resumes, right? And so, can I get your business card? Well, to me that sounds like you're not prepared, right? So, definitely print extra resumes. If you know that there's going to be 100 companies, print 100, right? Just have more than enough. So you never know who's going to show up and you're going to want to hand out your resume. And so have enough so that you can hand it out. And then some tips that usually the questions that I ask, you be prepared to ask questions, stuff like, what was your favorite class? I'm really trying to do is just have a conversation with a student and understand, what interest do they have, when do you expect to graduate? Are you looking for an internship, full-time role? These are kind of questions that I'm going to ask to kind of get an understanding, because in my mind, I may have some positions open that I'm looking for. And so I'm looking for a candidate who could fit that, maybe has experience in that, or maybe not. It depends upon what project is going on. And then it helps also if you know what kind of position you're looking for. And it's okay if you don't know. You just say, I'm open to any kind of position. As a first or second year student, you're really looking for any kind of experience that you can get. So whether that's entry level QA work or entry level software development type work, just say you're open, and then you never know what kind of opportunities will pop up. But if you are looking for something specific, maybe you want to get into security. There's going to be companies that are specifically catering to the security area, and so definitely if that's what you're looking for, we'll talk about it. All right. questions about the resume, career fair? Anybody? Yeah.
How can we, like a person, a student with no experience at all, so how can he make his resume more attractive to the employers if he is into a job or a position regarding which he has no experience?
Sure. I think your best bet is, you have some experience typically if you've taken classes. If you haven't taken any classes, you probably take at least one in your major. So talk about whatever project that you worked on. If you're looking to get into a certain, the other thing that helps is also, extracurricular activities, whether that's a club on campus, there's Hackathon, I think is another one, or any kind of hackathons that you've attended. Is any kind of experience that you can try to help yourself get into that that field that you're trying to get into? That would probably be my advice. Is if you don't have experience in a field that you're looking to get into, is try to find that experience, whether through volunteering work or class work, and then try to find that on the resume. I don't, whether the experience is from a class or from a job or from a hackathon, or even just some side project that you may have worked on, all of it's relevant. And you'll never know, maybe somebody's looking for a junior engineer or a junior, whatever field you're looking to get into. And a lot of it's just, presenting yourself, what was the thing, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. You said that, but not like the mind. What's that? Wayne Gretzky, yeah, that sounds about right. It sounds like Wayne Gretzky. So, hope that answers your question. Any other questions? All right. All right, so the interview. So this is a little bit of kind of my experience on the interview, and what I'm trying to do is kind of, I remember when I was in college, the interview was a very mysterious thing. It's like, okay, I have a resume, they give me a call, and they're gonna ask me questions in the interview, and I think it's helpful to kind of understand kind of what the purpose of the interview is, so it makes it easier for when you get put into that situation. So from a hiring manager's perspective, right, I'm trying to find a candidate who will be successful in the position, right? If I know I'm going to do Android development, I'm trying to find somebody who either has Android experience or has relevant experience that I know will that they'll be successful with, right? And from a candidate's perspective, you should start thinking about, is this a company that I want to work for, and is this a position I can be successful in? So it's a two-way conversation. It shouldn't be, as somebody who's being interviewed, not just one way where you just ask, you're just being asked questions. It should be a two-way conversation to get to know, the company and what kind of projects they're working on, what challenges they face, so you get a better idea of what kind of company you'll be working with, right? And usually I talk about this kind of interview prep grid, and so, every project experience, you want to kind of in your mind think about, what did you find most challenging? What did you learn? What was the hardest problem? What did you like? What you didn't like? Were there conflicts in that? And so that these are kind of typical questions in here. And so if you can kind of prep yourself for that. And the other resource that you have available to yourself is the Career Center. I think they've got a good, you can go talk to them, they can kind of help you kind of prep. There's a lot of clubs on campus. They used to do this where they do like mock interviews. And so if you find yourself nervous when you're kind of in an interview situation, doing like mock interviews will help you kind of get over the nervousness, because it's kind of something that's, you hear about interviews and you hear type questions and you hear horror stories and stuff like that. So it can be very intimidating. And so anything you can do to kind of prepare yourself for that will definitely help you, find that position that you're looking for. Also research the company and prepare questions for the interview. So a lot of companies, if you go to their website, they'll talk about their history of what their background is. They have a founder who invented something cool and then built this company from the ground up back in the 50s, right? They typically have company values. So like customer obsession, ownership, invent and simplify, think big. I think Amazon has something like 10 different company values. So each company has different sets of values, and you'll sometimes find that the questions that you get asked in the interview are relevant to the company values, right? So if a company values customer obsession, you may get asked a question like, give me an example when you were obsessed about delivering something to help a customer out, right? And so what they're trying to do is see how you know, based upon your experience, you know, how does that align with kind of their company values? So, yeah, and so I've just kind of mentioned this, right? Ownership, yeah. And when you're in the interview, you really want to talk about like situations, kind of what was the action and the result, whether that's in a project, work experience, something like that. So, and then lastly, you know, be confident, right? You can do this. Cal Poly has a rich history of students who have come through the program, men into industry. I'm an example of that. There's many out there, probably the more that you know, that are out there, and they've been able to transition from you know, a college career into a full-time and successful career. And so you've got all that rich history behind you. You be confident you can do this. Don't be cocky, just be confident. And so and you'll be able to do great things. Questions? You know what that is? Google Glass. Anybody have Google Glass? Let's see if I can wear them. What happened? I have one, by the way. I didn't wear it. It's on a mannequin on my desk. Cool. Any questions? Yeah.
Could you describe the interview that you went to?
Describe an interview that I went to?
Yeah, the hardest aspect.
The hardest. So when I was at Cal Poly back in 2000, I had an interview with HP. And so actually it was, they had set up something where I think they interviewed here on campus. And I walk into the interview room and I'm trying to remember the questions they had asked. The thing that I really took away from that one was that the hiring manager, or at least the recruiter, I don't know if they were hiring manager or the recruiter, they were stone-faced, and would, you know, you try to like crack a joke or something, and then there was like no laugh, and then you're like, okay. So that's probably the one I remember the most in college, the hardest one. And so that one, it didn't seem like it was like a two-way conversation. It was more of like I'm just responding to your questions and you are a robot. It was really weird. But I mean, you'll have different experiences. That was the hardest one I ever had. The one I remember with Xerox was more of, you know, more kind of real world kind of experience type questions. So like, you know, describe how you design, I don't remember what the exact, it was something about designing some kind of web application. And we started talking about databases and database design and stuff like that. So that was more of a conversation than what I had with HP. So I don't know if that helped, but somebody at HP is going to call me now. Yeah.
Alright, so in the summer I made a sound effect happen.
Uh-huh.
So I also published it through the coursework. So I'm kind of confident between doing that app and the projects in the management, or like what is the independent as a developer in the experience?
I would put it as like just experience. It depends on how if you want to swing by, we can talk about your resume if you have it. Yeah, we can look it over. But you know, it's if it's relevant experience, just put it under something around. I'm trying to think how others have framed it. Maybe just relevant experience, and then just those different projects that you worked on. And just say, you know, what did you build, and kind of what was the result, right? If it's in the Play Store, you built Android application to, you know, blah blah blah. That led, and you can talk about stats. If you have cool stats about it, like it was downloaded 1,000 times or something like that, or was used, something that kind of, you know, piques somebody's interest. Good. Yeah.
So, one, I'm saving up for Google Glass. Do you recommend it?
Are you what?
I'm saving up for Google Glass. The glasses.
You're signed up for it? Or you have one?
It's saving up for it.
Oh, you're saving up for one?
Yeah.
So, funny story. I don't know if it's funny, but so this was $1,500.
Yeah.
And
Sounds
I
about
think
right.
Google's discontinued actually selling them, so you have to buy a used one. They did, if I remember right, I think I read somewhere that they were building a new version that was really going to be targeted to kind of commercial. They kind of found a niche, it seems like, in the kind of teaching and manufacturing. Because if you think you're in a manufacturing plant and you want to teach somebody how to do something, it's kind of a cool You know, tech, because it's real lightweight. It's got a nice screen. It's a good screen that can kind of help you step through different steps. And so, yeah, if you can get a hold of one for cheap, I'd say yes. But the development, it's still pretty old in the way of development. Because this, I'm trying to remember. Actually, do I have a slide still? Oh, I still have these. Maybe I do this. It uses an old version of Android, so it's not going to be the latest and greatest. So maybe a little challenging to develop. If you can get a hold of a newer one, that may be better. Yeah, sorry, that's yeah.
Yeah, but cheap, do you mean like 1,000 or what do you mean like? Because I doubt it going lower.
Well, it was 1,500 when they were new, I think.
Oh, okay.
And I don't think you can buy these from Google anymore. They have a new version with like updated hardware, but I think those are probably around $2,000. So, but you can get an older one that's like on eBay. I'm keeping mine just as like nostalgia. So when the kids get older, be like, look at these. That's what happens.
Okay. Also, cracking jokes in an interview. I can do that kind of well, but the thing is, whether I should.
Oh, in an interview?
Yeah, especially for like a big company, like.
Yeah, no, I mean, take the interview process seriously.
Yeah.
And that's what I would say. Obviously, you know, it'll be like, you know, start into like a stand-up routine. You know, that's what I did last week. You know, I was at the, you know, now you want to keep it professional.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, if it's, you know, sometimes you'll see. Social events that some companies will hold, and then when it's kind of like a social environment, and you know, okay, then that's like that's a time to, you know, have a little personality. But yeah, in an interview, you know, you kind of have to gauge, you know, how you have to read your interviewee if they're, you know, if they want to be down business, and you kind of have to read how that is. So, unlike my HP interview, which was like down in business, it's like, okay, let's go do this. You know.
But even if it was like this proper situation, you wouldn't suggest like it being a story. It'd be like accidentally mishearing something, quote unquote, or like something simple. Is that what you're suggesting? Because
no, what I'm suggesting is keep it professional.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and so, you know, like I said, you need to go to like a full stand-up like routine. But you can keep it light.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know if that helped.
Yeah. I'm concerned you talked about this already. Can you ask or talk about money during the initial interview?
I wouldn't recommend it. I think what you want to do initially is get an understanding of what the job is, and understand what the company is about, and then because there'll be time to talk about that. But what you really want to do is get through that.
When do they talk? Because to me, of course, on my end, that is very extremely important.
Oh yeah.
Whereas on the other side, it's important that the company receive my skill level. What I'm receiving in return is a compensation for that. And about what time during the process is it safe and okay for me to talk about the financial
So
incentive?
the company will bring that up typically. It's usually, I mean, you think about, you know, car is probably a bad example, right? You have to think about yourself when you're in interviews. You're really, you want to talk about the value that you're going to bring, right? Your experiences that you've worked on, right? And then obviously you want to understand, you know, if I feel like that this is a company I want to work for, right? And so once there's kind of an agreement on both sides, like, yeah, we'd like to extend an offer to you, right? Then that's when you typically start talking about, you know, salary. And there's places
it's negotiable.
I mean, everything's negotiable, right?
Okay.
And I would, you know, if you really want to get into like negotiations and stuff like that, I mean, I'm not a negotiation expert, but you can look online, and there's probably some places you can go to you know, get a better understanding of salary negotiations and stuff.
Thank you.
But yeah, that's probably your best bet.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So as a director of web and software development, what does your average workday look like?
What does the average workday look like? So I'm in a lot of meetings. A lot of what I'm trying to do is make sure that the team has the tools and the technology to be successful. And that could be as simple as making sure that the team has you know, the necessary experience for maybe some technology that we want to work on in the future. Maybe that's bringing on a subject matter expert to come and do a talk. It could be, I mean, also a lot of what I do is working with our business teams and making sure that there's alignment. And so what we're trying to do, right, I mean, we're a business, right, we're trying to deliver an experience to our consumers. And so a lot of what I'm trying to do is get an understanding from business teams on what are the projects that and the products that they want to launch, and how does the technology fit into that, and how does my team fit into delivering that experience. A lot of what we're doing in the past probably 3 years is doing a lot more direct to consumer, and so if you think of direct to consumer, that's online, right? And that's basically my team, who's working on building these experiences that consumers are going to use to either research a product, purchase a product, check status on an order. There's so many different touch points that a consumer's going to have with us in an online space, and making sure that we have alignment with our business teams, that we're working on the right things, and that we're delivering results. Right? That's the other thing. Good, thank you. Okay.
What kind of software development process do you guys use? Agile?
Yeah, we use Agile. Yeah, so we typically have, so we have 3 teams. Each team has their own sprint cycle that they go through. One team I think is 2 weeks, and I think it's 3 weeks. Sometimes they align, sometimes they don't. And so, yeah, it's a typical Agile start. Yeah. Good. Other questions? Great questions, by the way. Yeah.
Can you describe your first internship? Like as you mentioned in just like because when you apply for it and just like about like a junior year, right? You don't have that much. You didn't have that much experience on it, and how do you prepare for your first intern?
How do you prepare for your first internship? Is that a question?
Yeah, because most of the time that they went to like verify those stuff, there's a lot of recruiters like talk to me and they're like, I do not understand probably more than half of that. It's like,
Yeah, so I mean, I think a lot of this has to do with, questions about experiences that you should try to have. I think, if you're a CS major, you like to build things, is talk about, what those experiences that you had through your college career, and how, you've built different things, and I'd lean on that, because there isn't like one experience that you can have that is gonna just enlighten. I mean, a lot of this is just understanding kind of how you learn new technology and how you apply new technology. And so being able to demonstrate that, and also demonstrating that you're passionate about building stuff, I think also helps. So, good. There's another question that's, yeah.
During an interview, what exactly the interviewer looks for? Like a guy with no experience and he's looking for an entry-level job. And of course, he won't be like skilled programmer or something like that, right? So what exactly that employer is looking for? Like, what are the things that the applicant can do to impress the employer
Sure.
to land a first entry-level job?
Sure. I wish I could tell you there's like one thing that you could focus on. It depends from company to company what they're looking for and what the interviewer is looking for. I wish I could tell you there's like one thing that you could focus on. I think the thing that I would say is, focus on the experiences and the type of things that you like to do, and it makes it easier to talk about your experiences when you're interested in them. And so having those experiences in the resume that you could talk about and kind of show that passion that you like to build things, and you like to work on whatever that is. I think that's the important piece to it. And I wish I could tell you like one thing. It's like every recruiter is looking for X, but unfortunately there's no like one size fits all for that. So okay.
I think
Are we running out of time?
out of time.
Okay, that's cool.
So, thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Also, if anyone wants to become a paid official member today, please talk to Fernando right now.
Actually, it's about good per year.
Also, if you can grab tacos, I think we have a lot.
Did this work?
I have no idea. Like, there was so many problems.
The first time it was blocked on being vertical,